By the end of this video, you'll learn how to streamline your work process so that you can get more done in less time. You'll avoid wasting time and be able to leverage the resources that you do have in the best way possible. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Marielle. I'm a corporate working mom with a master's degree in psychology. Here I talk about all things personal development, work-life balance, productivity, relationships, parenting, motherhood, so stick around if you want to see more of that. So the very first thing that you should do is to take a look at your surroundings and minimize distractions. Make sure that your environment is conducive to work. Are all of your essentials nearby so you don't have to go looking for them every time? Set up your environment beforehand so you're not fumbling and trying to look for things when you need them. If you work from home like me, make sure that you have boundaries in place for the people that you live with. They should know not to disturb you in certain hours and definitely only when it's necessary. Find a comfortable place to work that will make sure that you're focused as possible. For instance, make sure that you're not somewhere noisy, that you don't hear too much traffic or too many of the people around. If you get distracted easily by food like I do, make sure that you're not too near the kitchen or where the snacks are at, because otherwise you might be getting intrusive thoughts about food, which is not what we want. We want to be focused in our work. Decluttering and tidying up your environment will help you feel more at ease and less stressed, which will also impact the way that you work. When things are where they need to be, it's easier for you to find them, and it's also much less distraction in your head. Sometimes when there's clutter at the back of your head, you feel like you need to clean or you need to tidy up, and this is very distracting for when you're working. Some people also benefit from blocking some apps in their phones or not even having their phones nearby. I know that if I need to make sure that I'm really focusing on my work, I put the do not disturb in my phone or the sleep mode on my phone just to make sure that I don't get any notifications of messages, of emails, and things like that when I need to make sure that I'm focused on the work that I'm doing. Like right now. Some people use blocks on their computers as well. Some people use apps on their phone which help with their productivity. So for instance, I have this app called Forest in my phone, and this helps you to plant a tree every time you have focus time on your task. The tree goes bigger and bigger the more that you focus on your task, so it's also incentivizing you to stay on track. On the flip side, it's also nice to be able to switch up your environment. Sometimes when you're cooped up in the same room, the same desk, the same place every single day for the whole 8-9 hours of work that you're doing, it can be very monotonous. It can get very boring for some people. So sometimes it's nice to be able to switch it up and to go work at the cafe, work at the library sometimes, maybe even just work at your couch if it's possible. Stand up, go take regular breaks. Try to switch up your routine every now and then to make things interesting. The next is to prioritize the essentials. I know that, like me, you probably have such a long to-do list that you're really trying to make things work and make things fit in your schedule, but sometimes it's just not possible, and actually most of the time it's just not possible to get every single thing done. So make sure that you're prioritizing, focus on what's most important and give that your all, instead of doing a little bit of everything here and there and never getting anything really done. Ask yourself these questions. What can move the needle forward? What is most impactful? What are my most high-value activities? Keep those questions in mind and ask yourself these questions regularly to make sure that you're prioritizing the right things. The things that don't make the cut, delegate them or even remove them if it's really not necessary. All the other extra things that are not really that important or not really urgent, you need to learn to say no to. The next step I have is to eat the frog. Yes, eat the frog. This means to start with the most difficult and most important task first thing in your day. So think about your day and think about the most important task and the task that needs the most concentration and most focus on. Start with that and think about the task that if you do this, if there's nothing else that you can do at the end of the day, if you just do this task, then you're good. Start with that task. Most of the time, most of us try to procrastinate that task because it can feel too daunting and it feels like a little bit overwhelming to try to start with a task, or there's a little bit of fear in there because we're afraid of what it's gonna look like when we actually try. And so we end up procrastinating because we're just afraid and we just don't want to fail and we just don't even want to try, and we try to put that off as long as we can, and then we end up just hurrying ourselves and making ourselves even more miserable and more stressed because We know at the back of our heads that we have still this big daunting task that we need to take care of, all the while we're doing these little tasks that are not even really that important. Start with eating the frog, eating the most important, most daunting task first. By the end of a task, you'll feel so much relief and you'll feel so accomplished because you were able to tackle that first thing. Even if you take the rest of the day very slow, you'll be able to get the rest of the tasks done while knowing, rest assured, that the biggest, most important task is already finished. Also, bonus for this is that usually the most daunting, biggest tasks are what need the most energy. So if you start with this task firsthand, you'll be able to put in as much energy as you have first thing in the day. And then the leftover energy that you have can be just used for the smaller, less daunting tasks and the tasks that don't need as much energy. Instead of the other way around, where you have so much energy in the beginning and then you use it on these small tasks that don't really need that much energy or that much focus. By the time that you're about to tackle the big task, you're already so drained because you already used up a lot of energy on the smaller tasks. Time block, time block, time block. This is very important. If you want to make the most of your day, if you want to be able to really use your day as wisely as possible, use your time as wisely as you can, time blocking is such a great tool to use. If you haven't tried this, you have to just give it a try. I know that it can feel a little bit too much, a little bit daunting in the beginning, especially if you're somebody who doesn't really love very structured kind of schedule. It can feel a little bit constraining sometimes to the idea of time blocking, but I promise you it's so worth it to try. Even if you just try for one day and see how it works for you, at least you know that you've tried it and you know, okay, I've tried time blocking and it didn't really work out for me, and then you get insight from that, and then you also realize why it is that it didn't work for you, and then you can just tweak it from there. So, time blocking to stay focused. Learn when you have the lowest amount of energy and when you have the highest amount of energy in the day. So for instance, for me, I am somebody who has the most energy in the beginning of a day. Not that early. I'm not like a 4 a.m. kind of person, but I'm also not a 2 a.m. kind of person. I'm a little bit more in between, but a little bit more leaning towards the morning. So I have my most energy, my most concentration during the morning time, and I know this, and that's why I work accordingly. I schedule my tasks accordingly. So for instance, because I know that I have the most brain power, the most capacity in the morning, I try to schedule my most difficult tasks, the tasks that need the most energy from me, the most focus, first thing in my day, so that I'm able to use up the energy that I have on those important tasks. When you're working with your body instead of against it, it'll help you so much to be able to maximize the energy that you have naturally. And this is so much more effective than trying to force yourself to do things in an unnatural way for you. Some women even go as far as taking their cycles into account. This is something that you can do as well if this resonates with you. So for instance, like we have our menstrual cycle, and we have days as women where we're more productive, and where we have days when we're less productive. We have days when we need more rest, and we have days when we can really push ourselves. And so some women, they even take these days into account, and they try to schedule their activities taking those into account. I don't personally do that. I try to think about when I have my period, for instance, and I try to take it slower in that time and pre-plan accordingly, but I don't go that detailed into it. But if this is something that you feel might be helpful for you, it's always worth it to give it a try. Time blocking is also great because it gives you a deadline, because it helps to motivate you, to push you to be able to do the task in a certain amount of time. The cutoff can help you to stay focused until the thing is done, knowing that you have limited time, and will give you enough time to be able to do the other things that you need to do or rest. In doing time blocking, try to batch things together as much as possible. Try to batch all tasks that are similar, so that you're not constantly switching modes. So for instance, if you have to do a certain amount of admin in your day, try to just batch all of these together. Usually admin doesn't take that long, and like certain tasks take like 10-15 minutes, and then if you group them all together, then you have like, let's say, for an hour to do your admin. This way it's easier for you to stay in the zone because you're already in that mode anyway, and you're not constantly switching modes to doing admin and then suddenly trying to be creative, and then suddenly trying to be physical. So also another bonus to that is that transitioning from one task to another can make you prone to distractions. So this way, because you're not trying to transition to very different tasks and you're trying to keep to the same tasks, it's easier to be able to stay on track and to stay focused on this certain task instead of getting distracted by something else. Time blocking also helps to break off your day. So trying to see it as like work blocks. So seeing work block number 1, work block number 2, lunch, work block number 3, work block number 4, break. Something like that helps it to break it off into different smaller sections so that you can focus more granular, and it'll help your brain to not get so overwhelmed by having just this giant to-do list and giant time block of 9 to 6, let's say. Also, if it's difficult for you to get started and you feel like you're getting blocked every time you're trying to start, try to set a timer because it can help you to get started and keep you accountable that you're doing the task within this certain amount of time that you put for yourself. So for instance, I always like to use the example of chores because I'm not a fan of doing chores. I know that some people find it meditative or like fun to do even, but I just don't find it that exciting or fun or anything like that. And I really have to sometimes force myself to do chores, but setting a timer when I'm really not in the mood to wash the dishes or pick up the living room really helps me to be able to get started. And once I've started, it's so much easier to continue doing it. And the last is to automate as much as you can. What can you automate to make things run more smoothly? Do an audit of your tasks to see which can qualify for this, and research tools for automation. Speaking of automation, you can definitely leverage AI with your work tasks. I've definitely done this, and I know some of my colleagues have used this as well. AI can help with so many little tasks that we do that we think we can do ourselves, that it's not going to take that much time, but sometimes it really helps to do some little things like creating emails, creating texts, coming up with outlines, or prompting ideas. So sometimes when I'm stuck creatively and I just don't know how to write something, I love writing, but sometimes it's just like you need something to spark the plug before you get started. And sometimes it's nice to be able to work off of something like kind of like a template instead of trying to come up with it from scratch, especially when you're tired and you've already worked from morning until the afternoon and you're just trying to get your creative juices flowing. Sometimes it's good to have some prompts, and you can definitely use AI for that. I love scheduling things ahead of time because it helps me to get them off of my mind. So once I've done them, I've batched them, I've prepared them in a batch already. If I need a post to come up or an email to be sent at a certain amount of time, I already pre-plan it and already pre-schedule it so that it comes out in the exact time that it needs to come out, and I don't need to constantly be thinking about it anymore. I've learned that the way that we work can really influence the amount of tasks that we get done in a day. Putting in an endless amount of time on tasks doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting to do more than somebody who's putting in less hours. What's more important, instead of how long you've been working, is the results of the work that you've been doing. And that's definitely something that we can be strategic about. I've been pretty much obsessed with productivity and efficiency and trying to get the most done in very little time for several years now because I love the feeling of getting things done ahead of time and getting things done with least amount of effort but with the best results. These are just a few things that I've learned and personally implemented myself over the past few years that have really helped me with my work. I hope that this gives you ideas of things to try, and let me know which one resonates with you the most. Also, feel free to ask questions if there's anything that you're unsure about or anything that you just want me to elaborate on. I'm very happy to help, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!